My name is Flint, and you're watching the Gen Z Survival Guide. On today's episode of Gen Z Survival Guide, I am going to teach you how to do basic camping. So nothing advanced like water filtration systems, nothing advanced like building your own survival shelter. But if you're like me and you're looking for a little bit more of an adventure, then you'll do a lot more than just basic camping out here. Now, here's some tips that I recommend while you're out camping. The first tip that I recommend is not camping near a body of water. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. Now, if you don't like dealing with wildlife creatures all night and you want to reduce the possibility of you being attacked by a wildlife creature in the middle of the night, you got to remember, wildlife creatures, a lot of them try to live near a water source or try to live near the closest water source. And so camping near a water source can actually work against you. Here's the second tip that I recommend. I would not recommend camping in areas where there's a ton of trees and a ton of bushes. Now, I know outdoors there are a lot of trees, but what I mean by a ton of trees and tons of bushes is kind of like this. Look at all around us, right? Bears are attracted to areas like this. Now, of course, it's the woods. You know, bears live in the woods. Well, depends, really. Your best bet is to try to find an open space to camp in. And what I mean by an open space, try to find the most spacious area to camp in. And the reason why is because bears aren't really interested in open spaces, because bears do not find open, spacious areas attractive. And here's the third and final tip that I recommend before you camp. Please carry a self-defense weapon. Whether it be pepper spray against bears, whether it be, a big machete, of course, or whether it be a gun. There's stories of people going missing in national parks and on trails. There's stories of people being killed and murdered in national parks and on trails. This little Mauser M20, it ain't gonna stop a bear in its track, but if I fire a warning shot off in the air, it might potentially scare a bear away. Here are the basic camping essentials that you're gonna need. You're gonna need a sleeping bag. That's actually optional, but if you want a sleeping bag, go for it. 2, you're gonna need a tent or a camping hammock. Next thing you're gonna need is, of course, some food, because you're gonna wanna eat tonight. Now, this is optional, but this is what I highly recommend. You're gonna need a lighter or a match or something to just start a fire with. But if you know how to start a fire with the old stick trick, you're not gonna need this. Next, you're gonna need a carabiner. And this is important because what you can do is you can essentially take your tent bag here, you can clip it on to your carabiner, and then you can attach the carabiner to your backpack so you don't gotta carry it with your arms. Next thing you're gonna need, of course, is a backpack so you can put your supplies and stuff in. Next thing you're gonna need, of course, some tent stakes. Highly recommended. And the reason why you're gonna need tent stakes is because if the weather gets super crazy and the wind goes apeshit, that tent's gonna blow away with you in it. And of course, you're gonna need a flashlight or some light source, just in case, something crazy goes down in the middle of the night. What I forgot to mention is that you will also be needing a garbage bag so you can put all your food and stuff inside and all your food waste in. I know I gave you guys those tips about not camping in areas where there's a ton of bushes and that it needs to be an open, spacious area. But since it's about to be getting dark here soon, I have no other choice but to pretty much set up camp here. So I see enough room to put my camp in one area, start my campfire in another area, and put my food and waste in another area. And it's supposed to be getting cold as hell tonight, and I'm sweating, so we're gonna have to end up drying ourselves off and drying our shirt off over by the campfire here so we don't freeze to death. Here is how we are going to set up our camp, and we are going to use the old triangle method. So think about your entire space right here as a giant triangle. At one point of the triangle, we want to have, campfire set up. On the other point of our triangle, we're going to want to have our actual tent set up. And the final point of the triangle, at the top of the triangle, we're going to want to have all of our food waste and stuff over there. Now, you can swap this around. The top of the triangle can be where you want to set up your camp. It's up to you, but I'll explain why this method is important. Hypothetically, wild animal comes in, a bear comes in, they're going to be attracted to the food. So if you keep the food in your tent, then you're going to come over to your tent and you might die, unfortunately. But if you go with the triangle method and you have your food waste all the way up there at that point of the triangle, but your tent set up over here, that bear is more likely to go over there than over here. And so it'll decrease your likelihood of getting attacked by a bear. So let's get our camp going. Now first, we are going to set up our tent. And the reason why you want to set up your tent or shelter first is because, one, when you're out here in the woods, of course the sun goes down a lot more quick. And the reason why the sun goes down a lot more quick is because you're surrounded by trees, which is blocking the sun's light. So of course it's going to get a lot more dark out here quick. Whereas if you're on the road where there's no trees, you're going to see the light a lot more. And so the reason why you want to get your shelter set up first, in my personal opinion, as opposed to a campfire first, is because of, one, it getting dark. And if it gets dark, you might not be able to see shit. And of course you don't want to get yeeted by a freaking wildlife while you're trying to set up your tent at dark. And two, the weather can change as you're out here. So you don't want to be out here setting up a tent, soaking wet, and then you freeze to death in your tent because you're soaking wet because you decided to set up your tent last. So let's get our tent set up first. What you want to do is you want to find a nice flat space to set up your tent. And the reason why you want to do that is because you don't want to be like my little cousin and his girlfriend who, you know, I gave them the choice, but they set up their tent on a slope. And yeah, let's just say their tent kept moving in the middle of the night. Now, what you need to do is you need to clear the space of any leaves, any sticks and stuff, because you're going to be laying on that tent, and whatever is underneath the tent, you are going to fill. So I would just use your hands and clear it, or if you're like me, use your feet. And why I use my feet is because, of course, snakes exist, and you don't want to accidentally reach into these leaves and touch a snake, and then, boop, you're 2 miles away from an ambulance and you don't know if that snake was poisonous or not. And yeah, wah, wah. What you'll want to do is you'll want to lay your tent out flat, and then every corner there should be like a hole or a little loop right here where you can put your tent stakes in. And so you put your tent stake in. If you have a hammer, hammer that bad boy into the ground. If you don't got a hammer, just take your foot and push down on it as much as you can to keep it firm in the ground. See, look, this ain't going nowhere anytime soon. So if some crazy wind were to come out, tonight or something, we ain't getting blown away. But you want to put your tent stakes on every corner. There is another important reason why you want to put tent stakes in. Because see this pole, this support pole that is holding up this part of the tent? We still haven't finished setting it up, of course. If you try to put this support pole in, right, because this support pole goes on the outside. Some support poles go on the inside. This one goes on the outside of the tent. If you try to put this support pole in right here and you don't have a camping stake for your tent, this whole thing is going to have no support. So when you put it in and you're out here by yourself, this support stake is going to slide and fall because there's nothing holding it into place right here. So it'll make setting up a tent a lot less annoying. Now that we got our tent up, I would highly recommend you take your tent bag, you take your sleeping bag, and you place it in here. Just so when it's time for you to go home after you're done camping, you already, have everything in here, and you just got to pack it up. Remember, do not keep food in here at all costs. Now we are going to start a fire. Remember what I said about the triangle method while camping. One point of the triangle is going to be our campfire. Another point of the triangle is going to be where our food waste is going to go. And the final point of the triangle is going to be where our tent is. So since we have our tent set up here, we are going to have our campfire set up somewhere over here. First, we're going to need to grab some firewood. It doesn't have to be big pieces. It can be small pieces, but bigger pieces will, of course, take longer to burn, which is a good thing, meaning your campfire will, last longer. And there's actually several campfire methods. So there is a campfire method I learned where we could have a super long fire. But for now, we just need to gather any sticks. And these sticks need to be dry. You need dry sticks. Now, I would not recommend dead sticks or dead branches, but I have used dead sticks and dead branches, and, they've come in handy. So I would recommend, just some dry sticks. And the reason why you want dry sticks is so if it's dry, it'll light up. If it's not dry, it will not light up. If you have a big branch like this, you could literally just put your foot on it, break the stick into two, and split it into smaller pieces. You're going to need a lot more sticks than this and a lot more wood than this, but form yourself a big pile of wood and sticks. Now, I know what you're saying. Hold on, Flint. This is literally a burnt piece of wood. Why would you use this? Contrary to popular belief, this burnt piece of wood is actually really good at burning pretty easily. I'm going to show you a tip for breaking big pieces of branches into smaller branches like that. Now, of course, you could put your foot right here and then apply force and push down and break them. But what I just did off camera is I'll show you this. Take our branch here, and if you swing hard enough against another tree, most likely it'll split it in half and split it into smaller pieces. Basically, this came off of this when I hit it against this tree off camera. For example, here's a branch we can use. Boom. This just came off of that. Look at all this firewood that we've collected. Now, do you need all of this firewood to start a fire? No, I am actually going to show you how you can literally start a fire with just a little piece of wood, not this much, but this is how much I've collected for tonight. We are just going to start a fire here on basic land. Now, this is what you need to do. You need to clear a space between where you are going to start a fire and the firewood that you collected here. What I'm about to do, I would highly recommend clearing more space than where I'm about to clear. But we are going to start a fire right here. So that's about 2 feet away from the firewood. Would highly recommend doing it at least a few feet further than that. Notice how there's all these leaves on the ground. Leaves can easily catch fire. So we are going to start a fire here. What we're going to need to do is we are going to need to clear any and all leaves out of the way. And we are going to do that with our boot here. The reason why we also want to clear all these leaves out of the way, which I just cleared some off camera, is because leaves, when you burn them, and even wood, they will emit embers. And those embers will fly off and it could possibly spark into another leaf. And also, if your fire gets out of hand, you don't want your fire, going into all these other leaves and starting a potential forest fire. If you got rocks around you, I would highly recommend taking rocks and building a mini circle with rocks. That way, so the fire most likely won't go out of the rocks. So it kind of builds, a mini wall of protection. It won't protect too much, but it'll sort of help. I really don't got much rocks I could use here to build myself a circle. If you look here, it looks like we cleared out most of the leaves. We are not going to build a big fire right here, but I'm just going to show you how easy it is to build a fire. Now, what you need to do next is gather a thing called tinder. Tinder is any small piece or any small item that is dry and that can be burned. So this means literally a leaf like this. This leaf is small and dry and it can catch fire. Even a literal piece of paper is small and dry, can catch fire. So literally anything that's small and dry and can, catch fire, that's considered tinder. We are going to take a handful of these small little leaves here and we're just going to place them right here. This is to show you just how easy it is to start a fire. We're going to take some of these small sticks that we have gathered and we're going to place them around the leaves. We're not going to put the sticks on top of the leaves, but we're going to we're going to try to make a little mini circle with the leaves in the middle. This is what we got so far. I'm probably going to add just a little bit more leaves into the middle here. Our leaves in the middle, and outside of the leaves, we got the wood. And what we're going to do here is we are going to set one of these leaves on fire. And what that one leaf is going to do is it's going to take the remaining leaves, set them on fire, and then eventually this wood on the outside is going to catch fire. We're going to take one big leaf or anything that's, considered tinder, and we're going to set that on fire and set it on top of this. And when we do that, hypothetically, this one leaf should set ablaze all of these other leaves. Just once I got this fire started, I slowly started adding more leaves to it, because that fire will catch on to those other leaves that you slowly add to it, and then the fire will grow. And what's going to happen is that fire is going to spread and it's going to reach the outside wood right here. And now look at that. Now the outside wood is starting to catch flame here. While this is still going, still add more leaves into your pile here. Still add more tinder. Notice how we started off small with just a few leaves, and now we have it covered in leaves. The reason why you want to start off slowly is because you want that fire to slowly build up. And as it's slowly building up, you add more leaves and you add more leaves until the leaves are covering at least the majority of the sticks, because the more leaves you add, the bigger that flame's gonna get, and the wider that flame's gonna get, and then that flame is gonna spread to these outside branches and sticks, and then they're gonna burn. And what you can do from this point on is that's when you can start adding your firewood, of course. But just see how easy that was to start that fire. Remember the triangle method. Right over there, we got our tent. Right over here, which you can hardly see it because the bushes are covering it, we got our fire going. And right somewhere down here, we are going to be having our food waste hanging up. So let's go over this way. What you're going to do is remember, wildlife are going to be attracted to any food sources. So what you're going to do is take your bag of food and food waste, and you are going to try to find a branch on a tree here, and you're going to hang it right there. Or you can do what I'm about to do here. I have a carabiner here with some rope, and I'm going to throw it up and throw it over that branch and make myself kind of like a little mini pulley system. At the end of the night, when I'm done eating, I'm going to put all the food waste in there, tie it with that carabiner, and I'm going to pull this rope up, and it'll bring it up like that, and then I'm gonna tie this off to a tree. So, if any bears or any wildlife come through, they'll be attracted to the food over here. Well, my campsite's up over there, so hopefully they won't get to me. And also, because it's kind of hanging up, it'll be much harder for the wildlife to get near. I mean, wildlife are smart, but you guys know what I mean. This is kind of perfect. We got our trash system where all our food and food waste is right here. And if we go upwards, whoop, 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 we got our tent situated all the way back there. And we got a fire that's burning right over there. And that was today's video. This was just essentially me teaching you how to do basic camping skills. There's a lot more stuff that you can do, but this was just a basic camping tutorial. Thanks for tuning into the Gen Z Survival Guide. Until the next video, this has been Flint. Peace. Notice how this ash right here is still burning, it's still heated. What you can do, and this is pretty cool, you can take some dry leaves, we'll take a few here, we'll add it to the top of the heated ash, and we'll blow. And what it should do is if you blow hard enough, those ashes will spread onto those leaves, and those leaves will catch fire. I'm gonna teach you guys a good lesson in trial and error. So what I did is I waited for our flame to die down there a bit because I added too many sticks. And notice how it has died down a lot, and now you mostly see like this cool little ashy charcoal. And you see the smoke going up. That's good, that's good. So what I decided to do is after the flame died down for a bit, I decided to take one of my bigger logs, put it over here, which adds at least a few inches away from the fire. And since this stone was already right here, I took some of the longer logs, made a little makeshift bridge from this long log over here and the stone here. Then I added smaller pieces of sticks on top to make a mini stovetop. The heat from this fire is gonna go upwards towards the stovetop, and it is going to cook our food in this can right here. If you're wondering why the hell the water bottle is there, basically, I took some river water earlier, and we're pretty much trying to like clean it out now. So the issue is I accidentally forgot my cooking pot back in my car, which is 2 miles away from me about. So what we're doing is, since this flame is all the way down here and the water's up there, what we're hoping that the heat, which is traveling upwards and it's cooking what's in the cans, that same heat is going to hopefully kill some of the bacteria in this river water right here. Of course, you need to boil the river water to kill all of the bacteria, but we're hoping what we do here will at least kill most of the bacteria. Now, the only thing is that sucks here is this is a plastic water bottle, right? Because this is a plastic water bottle, plastic is gonna melt. So I think what we will do is, if I notice the plastic melting, is after we're done eating, we'll take these cans and we'll boil the water in there instead. If you look right here, you can start to see particle bubbles getting ready to boil so we can break down the bacteria and drink this water. Now, it is nighttime and we decided to make a mini campfire right here near our tent. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to be shooting 2 shots from our gun to hopefully warn any predators that, yo man, we're in the area, don't come and fuck with us. Just like that. Easy stuff. You're probably wondering, what did we bring on our camping trip? Now, of course, this is a basic tutorial, but I like to go a little extra on my camping trips. Now, I got my flip phone here, and yeah, I've switched to a flip phone, but I'm using an iPhone to record this. The reason why I switched back to a flip phone is mostly because of the fact that I don't like waking up to constant notifications. I'm just not a fan of being, actively on social media anymore as much as I used to. So having something simple that I can text and call on, that's all I need. So I just use this iPhone to make videos. I've removed service off of this iPhone. We got a beanie, some warmy socks, and an extra long sleeve because we are going to be double layering tonight because it is going to get cold. We also got a hammock here, which I'm going to set up in the morning because I'm going to do a little bit more camping in the morning and just hang out and do some cool bushcraft stuff. So I'm going to set up this hammock and just chill in the morning. We also got a flask here full of, if I remember correctly, I think it's chocolate or chocolate peanut butter whiskey. I got 2, camping, hiking, and just basic bushcraft survival technique books. And now the reason why I recommend you always get a camping or a bushcraft book is because, of course, there's YouTube guides. But, you never know when you're going to need knowledge in the middle of a camping or hiking trip. You never know, if there's going to be a situation where you need knowledge and you might not have signal out here, and you can always refer to your books. This book actually kind of taught me how to, read clouds and know when it's going to rain based on certain clouds. This one also taught me the triangle technique as well, which I think is pretty damn cool. This one taught me different campfire techniques, which that's pretty cool. So I always recommend having a camping or a hiking book on handy. I also got rope over there because that rope can come in handy, like earlier when we used the rope to make our little makeshift pulley system for our food and waste. I also got an emergency raincoat right there just in case shit goes to hell. And I got a cassette player and a Bible. And yes, that is a Jack and Sally bookmark in my Bible. Of course, we do got a compass here just so, in case we accidentally get lost, I'll at least know which way is the trail. And believe it or not, our trail is actually over here south. So, if I wake up and I'm like, oh shit, which way is the freaking trail? I'll just, be able to remember, oh, yeah, the trail's back here south, so we're not going to forget. This is our water from earlier. Like I said, of course, the heat would make the plastic melt. And I would highly not recommend doing this, but pretty much this is all I freaking got out here to boil water with. And this is the only time I'm actually going to do this. And I'll probably be drinking a little bit of microplastics tonight. But if you look closely, you can tell that some bacteria was getting killed in there. So this might not be the safest water to drink, but I think at least it'll be a little safe enough to drink once it's cooled down. Highly would not recommend doing this unless you're in an emergency.